Right. Anything important in today's paper?
Sir.
Like?
Seal cover jurisprudence.
Sealed cover jurisprudence. Okay.
Proportionality test.
Proportionality test. Is it new to us?
No. But
Why?
it's
Where did we hear earlier?
Puttaswamy case.
Apart from that, Puttaswamy is in the article itself, right? He mentions that judiciary has used proportionality principles in Puttaswamy versus India. Did we ever proportionality principle?
Pegasus.
Pegasus also people have criticized that they could have used proportionality principle.
mentioned.
Narayan, before today, did you hear about doctrine of proportionality? Where? So we are discussing about this particular part where doctrine of proportionality has been mentioned, and he says the 4 rules under proportionality principle are to be followed. That there should be a proper purpose, rationally connected. There should not be any alternative means, and proper relation to whatever you want to do and whatever you want to achieve. Right. So Anuradha Basin versus Union of India. In that particular case, in relation to Anuradha Basin versus
Union of
Union of India case. In that particular case, we have discussed about proportionality principle. So in Puttaswamy judgment, in Anuradha Basin case, now probably in the other cases also proportionality judgment should be applied. Now, why this article is important? Not for prelims but for mains in GS paper 2. Whenever a question comes, like is constitutionalism is being implemented in letter and spirit? What are the threats to fundamental rights? In such cases, we have to look at. Now, let's take a case study. We'll think it from the point of view of a police officer. I'm a police officer, right? I'm an executive. Police officer means executive. I have done something. I want to arrest someone. Okay. So when I want to arrest someone, he is a part of a larger net. Okay. Let's take this particular case. In Kerala, there is a media house. Okay. That media house have done something. According to whom? Executive. Okay. And executive have given a sealed envelope to the judge saying for your eyes only. That means the executive will know, the judge will know what is the crime that has been committed by this particular media house. Okay. Now, how it have done the crime or what is happening? Probably the media house also knows if it is a criminal. Okay. Sometimes what will happen? It's a large organization. Some members have done something wrong, but the management does not know. Let's assume in this case, even the management have actually done some crime. Assuming. Now, all the parties involved, what is the crime? Knows. Okay. So a similar crime is happening in West Bengal. So if I disclose how this particular crime is happening or who is funding it or whatever it is, the same modus operandi, right? If I disclose that, the West Bengal guy will realize even I am doing the same thing. So that means tomorrow I will be arrested and he will be alert now. So let's say the West Bengal guy is under observation right now. So I'm waiting for 1 or 2 months to pass so that I can arrest him. So that is the reason why executive does not want to reveal what is the modus operandi. This is the best case scenario. I mean, this is the really good scenario where this guy is also a criminal, that fellow is also a criminal, and to arrest all the criminals, I'm bending the fundamental rights. Okay, and normally for normal cases it should not happen, but in both the cases, national security, that means all the lives of Indians are under threat. So using utilitarian principle, I'm going for greater good. Okay, national security is involved. Okay, this is a utopian scenario, right? And using this as an excuse, this is the best case scenario as an excuse. Okay, I will use it for political vendetta. I will use it for all kinds of cases. Whenever, let's say, I want to keep someone in the jail, let's say Bhim Koregaon issue or something else, I will throw sealed envelope at the faces of the judges. Right? National security. All I will write is there is a probability that this person is a national security threat. So these are my suspicious. Okay, and the judiciary will also happily accept it. Because of this, what happened? The fundamental right of the individual, the institution, the organization, the livelihood, all these things are being damaged. Okay. See, national security threat will be like 24/7. It will always be there. Somebody all the time somewhere wants to destroy India. We cannot wipe out all the enemies of India. Okay, both internal and external. That is utopian scenario. We can never have not have enemies. Okay, we will always have enemies. But that should not be an excuse to use national security in every sense of the term. Okay, here we cannot blame executive. Why? It is the nature of the executive to be suspicious of everyone. Yes or no? Nature of the executive to be suspicion of everyone, or it is the nature of the politicians to use executive for its own welfare maximization. Okay, so this misuse will always happen. Who is supposed to be on the higher pedestal to protect fundamental rights? Judiciary. If judiciary has not entertained this sealed envelope drama from day one, okay, the executive would not have got used to this taste. Yes. So 10 times I have thrown a sealed envelope at the face of judiciary. 8 times it has accepted it. Then what will happen? Now you have created a new benchmark in the society that if there is something national security, a sealed envelope will come into the picture. And it clearly violates one principle, that is principle of natural justice. Okay. Now take the opposite worst case example. That means I'm a politician. I don't like a particular media channel. Not this example. As a hypothetical example. I'm very petty also. So what will I do? I will close down that particular media outlet and I will say national security. And I will give a sealed envelope to a judge who is in my favor. Then the judge will say national security. So channel can be closed. So for 1 or 2 years, I have closed you down. What will happen to your livelihood? I have literally destroyed my dissenters. You get the idea, right? So as long as we live in a democracy, which we should entertain the idea of national security, but we can probably use the principle doctrine. So I have told you the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. In the best case scenario, whatever has been done can be justified in an aspect. Okay, assuming everybody is a criminal, there is someone else. If I disclose the details now, the other fellow will escape. Right? Or he might be alerted, oh no, my game is up. That is best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I'm using it for political vendettas. Okay. In between is lack of capacity of the institutions. That means, let's say I'm a institution like CBI. I know that you are a criminal, but I don't have evidence. You are a very smart criminal. In my mind, I have made up, like, that Kirin Vedanta case. If you remember Kirin Vedanta case, what did the income tax officials mentally fix? They have decided that Kirin company is a wrong company, or it has to pay taxes no matter what. Retrospective taxation will apply to Kirin. So no matter what you do, you pay the tax. Okay. So the income tax officers are mentally fixed, and they even sold the shares of Vedanta company. Now that is what Indian government was forced to pay back 7,500 crores, right? So in the same sense, I'm a CBI officer. I know that you have committed a crime. Okay, I assume so. You may actually have committed the crime. I don't have proof, but I still want to harass you. What will I do? I will throw all the suspicious things at you and say you are a national security threat. Even governments will be happy to play along. Right? So all these things should not happen in a democracy. That is a major lesson we have to learn. So what is the solution here? The problem we have identified. He is saying proportionality argument. Let's say there is a genuine national security threat. Then what will you do? The first scenario I told you, right? The West Bengal example where somebody is genuinely criminal. In such scenario, what will you do? Trust on institutions. Hmm. There is a golden idiom, right? Trust but verify. Yes, trust everyone, but verify. I trust CBI. I trust my, brothers in arms. I believe that they are all working for national security. I have no iota of doubt that they are being misused. Okay, but how do I verify that?
Maybe release that sealed cover maybe after 2 years, 3 years. Those documents after just like they declassify some files. Maybe they can declassify it after the issue is sorted out.
So, quicker measure. I mean, you are doing postmortem.
Yes.
So let's say for 2 years I have destroyed you. After 2 years, the sealed cover has been declassified. Then I found out all they had was suspicion, no concrete proof. Right? The damage has been done. Then what is the point of saying, oh, I was sorry? For 2 years, the media house is closed. All the people lost employment. The company went into bankruptcy. Then so the thing is, whenever such cases come, which have constitutional implications, okay, here fundamental rights are being violated and national security is involved. What Supreme Court can do is it can establish a bench, or it can give it to the collegium or something like that. There can be a committee of the senior most judges of that particular high court or Supreme Court, okay, and government has to record it on the it has to be classified on the record. It cannot be vaguely worded. It has to be on a file, and it should be only for the eyes of those judges. If all the 4 judges actually believe there is a genuine national security threat, there is no point of disclosure. Okay, again, this is, I'm me supporting the sealed envelope, which I don't want to. Okay, but you still want to support the sealed envelope. What can you do? You can create a committee with senior most judges in India, or 3 or 4 members of the High Court. So who will actually sit and discuss whether it is worthy of being sealed or unsealed? Then it can go further. At least there will be extra layer of checks and balances on the executive's hyperactivism. Right? So again, personally speaking, if I'm a police officer, I will speak from one perspective. If I'm a normal person fighting for fundamental rights, I will fight that sealed envelopes are an antithesis to democracy. Okay. And second thing, if somebody is giving something in the sealed envelope, he should be 100% confident that one day it is going to come out, or somebody will scrutinize this. So I cannot make up, cases on basis of mere suspicion. I told you the best way to understand this is, if you properly implement constitution, what should you do? If you know that Vijay Mallya is a criminal, okay, you should bring proof to get the warrant. But what we do in India is, we will break him. I mean, we will break his laptop or whatever to find evidence. Yes or no? Even to open somebody's laptop, okay, you need a warrant. What will the normal judge should say? Give me some proof he is a criminal. I will give you the warrant. What will we do? Give me the laptop. I will show you that he is a criminal. Simple difference. I hope you understand, right?
Yes, sir.
First, you have to. So that institutional capacity may be lacking sometimes.
So again, that becomes threat to privacy. That again.
But if you have suspicions elsewhere, if you have undisputed proof that he has committed a crime and all the evidence is in this laptop,
to even get the proof that they have to violate privacy.
No, that is not how it works.
Well,
you have to go in alternative means. Let's say I'm a terrorist. I have been radicalized. Okay, you find my iPhone. You found my iPhone. Okay, I'm not giving you my thumb impression. You don't have any other ways to open that. Okay, so what are you saying? Like, I will forcefully open you. Once I open the laptop, breach the privacy.
No, sir, not forcefully.
Then what else you can do?
There are a lot of technologies.
Again, you cannot, and let's say it is highly encrypted.
And that is what, sir. Then the institutional capacity is lacking.
Then you will find other ways.
Let's say even if the institutional capacity is there, they would say, you are breaching threat to
exactly.
breaching
That
privacy.
is what happened in Apple FBA case. Apple said no to FBI's request to open a phone which is of a suspect of a terrorist crime. Apple said nothing doing. I won't give you permission. Do whatever you want to do. So see, that is a burden of the modern day police officer, right? He has multiple layers. So considering all these things, I hope you got a broader perspective of this article, right? So don't take the article only from one point of view. You have to see the burden of the police officer, the politicians who are misusing these provisions, and ultimately constitution. If constitution is good, then only everything else will say. If constitution is bad, then there is no point of having a constitution. Okay, there is no in between for Constitution of India. It is saying this is the highest benchmark. Then even 100% knowing that I'm letting a criminal walk away, I will let him walk away rather than take law into my own hands or harass him.
Next day some bomb blast happens.
That is a burden. That is a burden of the executive. Yes or no? See, simple case. I told you, right? I arrest Umang and you on a terrorist suspicion. Okay, both of you are at the same place. For 13 years, both of you are incarcerated in the jail. Right? 13 years, you claimed both of you are innocent. So after 13 years of no proof, I was forced to release you. But actually, you are the terrorist. Right? You will do a bomb blast even after 13 years. I cannot stop that from happening. If not you, somebody else. Okay, so the security threats to India will never stop. Your argument is you have left Umang or you. Okay, I cannot prove that you are a criminal. I left you and you did the bomb blast. You will do it anyhow. Or somebody like you might have already been tried. So the threats will keep on emerging. It's not like this particular person or this channel has been stopped and crime will stop in India. No, right? Some other channel might be radicalized, are taking money from terrorists, are being funded by terrorists, are trying to create, law and order situation in the country. Tomorrow, somebody else will be radicalized. So I understand your point that harassing you is okay, worth it, or not letting you by breaking law is okay, but you are not the only terrorist, right? And the problem is by showing you as an example, more people will be radicalized. See, that innocent fellow has been harassed for 13 years. You get the point, right? So these are the burdens of national security. Okay, and constitutional liars. Luckily, we are neither as of today. We are only UPSC aspirants. What are the 4 principles of? What is natural justice? What are the principles of natural justice? No man should be a judge of his own case, and no man should be punished without being heard. Okay, HEARD. Yes, he should be heard. That means the opposite party should also be heard. If I want to punish Uma, so at least I should give her a chance to explain herself why she have committed that particular crime. Okay, so when you don't do all these things, it is violation of principle of natural justice. Justice Ranjan Gogoi case is a very famous example for no man should be a judge of his own case. A sexual harassment case has been filed against the Chief Justice of India, and he was heading the bench for that particular case. Violation of principal justice in letter and spirit. Okay, working human too with a dream of good child care. So the core theme or the major theme of this particular article is
improving
this one actually, early childhood care and education. ECCE, National Education Policy 2020, have a core theme that is early childhood care and education. From caring a child from 3 to 6 years is early childhood care and education. See, the first 1000 days of a child is a golden period. That means more or less 3 years. So for the first 3 years, his brain development will happen. After 3 years, he should have this cognitive ability development. That means recognizing patterns, names, colors, things. So he should figure out the world on his or her own growth. So normally in India, till the age of 5, we don't focus on all these things, directly dump them into the school. Okay, so the first 1000 days he is not having the first 1000 days he is not having any proper food, malnourishment and all these things, it will affect his cognitive development. Then after that also he is not having any kind of formal training. Directly he comes to the government school or something, then his learning will be diminished. So to target that, government has brought in this Nipun Bharat scheme, where early childhood care and education will be provided. That means 0 to 3, actually technically 0 to 6 you are covered under ICDS, right? Okay, within that 3 to 6 you will have more kind of activities. Okay, so that is the core theme of early childhood care and education, and National Education Policy 2020 focuses on this part also very nicely. The entire February 2022 Yojana is covered for, dedicated for National Education Policy. So that is the importance of this particular scheme or policy. Okay, now what is this particular article talking about? This particular article is talking about the maternity, the child rearing, and the society in 3 areas. One is that women are in informal sector. They are from socially, economically backward sections. Okay, so if a woman is not going to work for 1 month or 2 months because of pregnancy and post-delivery reasons, she will be either in debt or her family might be going into poverty. So that is why women are forced to enter into the labor force without any proper rest. So that will affect her, the child, the care. Okay, so governments came up with a policy where they will give certain amount of money to the woman for 6 months. So ICDS is the best example, where 6,000 rupees is given to women for 6 months after her delivery, so that she, even if she doesn't go for a job, her needs are taken care of. So state governments can add a top up to the existing scheme and give more money. For example, Tamil Nadu is giving almost 18,000 rupees. So that is a good thing. But in spite of such things, women are forced to enter into the jobs. Okay. The major criticism is the central government under Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana have reduced that money so to 5,000 from 6,000. So it is not helping all the women. Plus, now they are forced to go into the workforce, and also there are no crèche facilities. Yes, I think the suggestion is utopian
Having crush facilities.
in an informal sector.
Yes.
See, a contractor hardly pays 250 rupees or 270 rupees to the mother itself. He or she is not interested in paying the full money to the women. Women are considered as second-class laborers within the laborers, right? So she will be doing the menial job, whereas Mestri or all these people will be doing the actual job. So she will get less money in comparison to the other laborers. Within that, if you ask the contractors to maintain a crèche facility, bring some ayah to take care of the children who are working for you, I think all these are
Utopia.
actually not possible in Indian circumstances. Personally, I mean, what we see on a day-to-day basis on the ground level, right? Okay, but her suggestions or her ideas are good. At least we should appreciate them and bring them, because more women should be given that opportunity to take care of the children. Okay. So what can the state do? The state can actually invest more in Anganwadi facilities. So we have to update the Anganwadi to world-class facilities, so that if a woman is willing, let's say technically what she's saying is we should have 24/7 kind of Anganwadis, where if the children are left there, they will be taken care very nicely by whosoever there are. So maybe from morning 8 to evening 6, if the woman can leave the child at the Anganwadi facilities, okay, then she will not be worried about the child. So I think that will be the long-term better solution. But the problem here is, for that you have to reform Anganwadi centers. Half of the Anganwadis in India don't even have proper tap connection. Okay, then Asha workers are paid very low, and you also throw in polio vaccination on the Asha workers, COVID tests. All basic primary health care is outsourced to Asha workers. So she may or may not spend good amount of time in Anganwadis. So you have to hire more Asha workers, pay them properly, develop the infrastructure of Anganwadis, run them for longer hours, have shifts, better infrastructure, play facilities. So when you do all those things, then automatically even the informal workforce probably will visit Anganwadis to drop the kids, and they should be in the accessible places. if the entire activity is happening in the city outskirts, but Anganwadi is in the other side of the city, again that will be utter failure. So, right? Yes.
Sir, what about silver economy, sir? There will be grandparents.
Hmm.
So
For informal labor, the problem is they are not people from the same place, right? The grandparents are in the village. I mean, migrant to Hyderabad to work. Yes. So why will the silver economy take care of the grandkids? If it is in a village, I will do that. But if see, all these are migrant laborers only, right? The construction laborers, all these people, they come from some small villages throughout the country to something else. People from Kerala are working in Uttar Pradesh people are working in Telangana. So the logical outcome of this particular article is states should pay good amount of money to the informal labor so that at least for the 6 months, the child will have good quality care. Next is infrastructure development, more Anganwadis. So what we can creatively do is bring Asha workers, Anganwadi workers plus NGOs, mix them so that all of them can change their ideas. So NGOs have better access to the knowledge. So that knowledge can be transferred to Asha workers. So collaboration can happen. So if, yes, then probably you can bring in the silver economy where SOS concept, like old people will also start coming voluntary to Anganwadis, take care of the children. You get the idea, right? So, but personally speaking, it's utopian. Nobody will do that at the grassroots level. No contractor will bear all these burdens. This we have discussed the Shia-Sunni conflict. Yes, Taliban are eliminating the Shia population in Afghanistan region, Pakistan region, Afpak region, and they are under constant threat. So all, not only the Shiites, but Hindus, Sikhs, other religious people, you get a Bora Muslims, all these people who are in that particular Afpak region are now targets for Taliban. So this will lead to sectarian warfare. So it is not good for the peace of Taliban. Yes. So not going into too much details, but you know, it can start a civil war kind of thing in Afpak region. So let's say Iran might start supplying weapons and guns to Shiites. Iran is dominated by Shia, right? So it might start contributing to weapons. So just like Yemen, it might lead to a new Cold War. Okay. Even Saudi and Iran are famous for the Shia-Sunni conflict. All of you know this. So Saudi is Sunni, whereas Iran is Shiites. Syria is also a victim to the same target. Okay, we'll come back. Reaping the potential of the female workforce. What is the summary of this article?
The employment opportunities have increased in the recent times for women, but still there are need of good policies and measures to incorporate them into.
if we can boil down it to one fact, as IMF says, if women are actively contributing to economy, then GDP would grow by 27%.
So basically, the summary should be like this: if you give smartphone and access to technology, thanks, women will take care of their own needs. Okay, so we'll start the story like this. See, remembering it like story is very important. Now, why women are not participating in the workforce? First of all, we need to know what is labor force. People who are working and actively seeking for work are labor force. 60 crore women are there in India. Half of the population are women, right? 60 to 65 crore women are there. But how many women are actually in the farmer workforce? Very, very less. Entire workforce itself is 5%. Within that, probably not even 5% is women. Formal. Okay, women in that. So that shows that majority are in informal sector. and that is because of socio-economic and cultural reasons that women are not allowed to work very far away from home. If feminization of agriculture is happening, that is happening because the men will migrate to the cities, whereas women will stay back with the in-laws or to take care of the families. And the care economy or the societal expectation that mother will take care of children. So that is what we have seen, right? We don't even have a proper paternity leave, whereas the maternity leave is much longer than the paternity leave. So all this, the societal norm says that in-laws won't allow you to work. Okay, you cannot go for towns, cities, you cannot work in distance. Then there is this lack of transport, lack of infrastructure, lack of toilets. So all these things affect the women's employment, right? Okay, while you are going in the bus, you'll be sexually harassed. Then you will prefer not to work. In the factory, there is no proper safety security mechanisms. Okay, so because of all these reasons, women are not entering the labor force. But most Indian women are very talented. They have their own skill sets. Okay, at the, it might sound like stereotyping, but they are good in cooking. They are good in making a lot of food related recipes. Okay, or handicrafts, arts. All these things can be done by women. Okay, now the problem is the free time that she is having between, let's say, 2 to 4 or 2 to 6, she is not using it to convert herself into any meaningful income, right? Say she is a domestic help, that's all she is, and that too in a nearby colony. If she is a domestic help, I mean, if she is from socio-economically weaker section, she will work in 3 or 4 houses very near to her house, walkable distance, and she comes back and that's it. Okay, but she is very good artist, or she is very good in stitching, something like that. Okay, so she is not converting herself into a entrepreneur. There is lack of access. So what you can do is, let's say we develop a open source based app where, based on GPS, just like Uber, if I'm looking for something, okay, if you are talented in your local area, what you can do, I'm good at this, I'm good at stitching, I'm good at something else, something else, you register yourself. If that person is looking for that particular thing, he or she will contact you. Let's say you're good in very good in making a recipe based powders, cooking food. Okay, so you'll start as an individual entrepreneur, you will slowly start selling. If the word of mouth spreads, then you can become an entrepreneur. So her free time is being converted into productive time. So from employee to she will convert into employer. She will hire 10 more people to support her. But none of these things are happening because, first of all, women does not have access to technology, or nobody has created this kind of open thought process. See, gig economy, platform economy, that is what they are arguing, right? So 2 to 4 she is free. The kids are to the school. She doesn't have to go out to drive. What she can do is she can convert her skill set, whatever it is, into something remunerative. And when her income increases, her voice will increase. So opposite is true. See, you can argue that, you are stereotyping, you're boxing her into cooking, stitching and all these things. But what I'm saying is, at least that might give wings to some women so that they will be financially empowered. Then they might educate their daughters without falling into the trap of patriarchy. Okay. This is where self-help groups, NGOs, civil societies, government support, software, openware, tie up with e-commerce companies, quick commerce companies, all these things will come into the picture. Yes. See, you are good at making something like powder chutney or something. I'm a software engineer. I don't have time. What do? I contact you through Zepto. Zepto will deliver it in 10 minutes. Both of are connected through e-commerce. So instead of working as a housemaid, now you are a cook, or you have improved your income, right? Whatever it is. That is what is happening in urban areas in Hyderabad. If you see, you will find someone as a maid, then she will become your cook also. Then she will become ayah to your kids also. So one family is paying her 15,000-20,000 rupees. So her quality of life also has improved, and she is making more amount of money. Yes. But her daughter may not, if her daughter is getting educated, she will never have to be made again. So you're breaking the cycle of poverty. So these are thought process that you can take away from this particular article. So using the same technology, we can skill her, we can create groups, SHGs, so on and so forth. But unless we give them that opportunity to test their potential, We will never see whether this will work or not. So you can also use this article as an antithesis or a solution to universal basic income.
Income.
Universal basic income. Why? My favorite topic, universal basic income. Put money in the hands of people, let them destroy. Okay, so it won't work. So what can you do? Next time you can say, if you want to win elections in Punjab, don't give 1,000 rupees to women. What should you do? You should develop platforms where women will be empowered.
Investments, capital investments.
Human capital development.
So
In-
the investment, there are some groups which have crossed that limit where they have like a 10, 15 people, but the capital requirement is
Then they will be supported. That can be done. By the way, Aam Aadmi Party is going to come to power in Punjab, according to exit polls.
Yes.
Okay, so the 1,000 rupee theory will become mainstream. Yes, giving 1,000 rupee to all the women in Punjab above the age of 18 will come true. So will other states follow that? Will the same follow apply
Competitive
in,
populism.
will the same formula work in other states?
Definitely. So why
Yes.
not?
Yes. So then my discussion will become
Reality.
more relevant. I told you so, right? Yes or no? I told you 3 months ago that this will happen. Luckily for Congress, luckily for the women of India, on Women's Day, we came to know that that BJP is going to come back into power in Uttar Pradesh. So Priyanka Gandhi's formula of 40% reservation for women is not working. So women's reservation will take 10 more
Yes.
years. Okay. Yes. And they are going to win single digit seats, it seems. So that 40% reservation idea will be buried under 40 years of patriarchy again. I think that is a takeaway, right? Can you add more value? See, ILO says, World Bank says, if more women come into labor force, all these things are common sense. You should not be surprised by it. Yes.
So isn't like to end patriarchy, we need to come out of that patriarchy, because I have seen women who, if they grow, the male member of the family are not able to digest that fact, and they are like they try to suppress them and
Destroy
satisfy
them.
their
Ego.
So this patriarchy is stopping a woman from
We should
getting
make
out of
diverse
it.
laws very easy.
Make
Diverse laws very easy.
that's a very long term thing.
Okay. See, basically, whatever you are saying is true. But now, out of context, sorry. So more. See, again, we are not ready for any of these things. We should not do, at least in our own lifetimes. India is not ready for any of these things. These are only ideas. Okay. Even if you have become a billionaire IPO tomorrow, Umang CEO of a unicorn, okay, still your family and the in-laws families, they will expect you to wake up your husband and give coffee. Okay, so patriarchy is something that is very deeply DNA level encoded into Indians. Not only Indians, majority of the world. See, we are all hypocrites. That is why I never put WhatsApp status on Women's Day, because no man can be, truly 50% women empowerment. We cannot do that. Subconsciously, we are all trying. We have that
So actually,
genetic problem.
Like why there is no men day, and they have this set of in their
The
mind.
Men's Day is there.
Like not as popularized as women's.
Exactly, you are using the term correctly. Popularized, right? Women's Day is to show that you matter for one day. So
That also they have like a problem on in terms
satisfaction. It's a commercialized product, right? On Women's Day, what will I do? I will send greeting cards. I will put WhatsApp status. Sorry? Cool down. You cannot cool down feminists. It is not possible. So again, the problem is the entire structure is created in man's world. So the structures are some things that we cannot even see, right? I mean, see, if you are not educated, how many families will even have this discussion that, my family is patriarchal family? And there are systems which entertain or which continue this for a good amount of time. And it is very difficult for you to come over it and over patriarchy.
So it has no
It will,
end.
it will end one day, but not in next 50 years. Okay, but it will end one day. I think,
Should it not be the men's side effort rather than
exactly, for men to realize that it will take 50 years. That is a problem. See, 90% of women don't know that they live in patriarchy. They support patriarchy. And second thing, out of the 60 crore, like out of the 130 crore Indians, okay, 125 crore Indians don't have actually any purpose in life. Be honest, out of 130 crore Indians, 125 crore Indians do not have any purpose in their life. What is a purpose in your life? You have to complete your school education, college education, get married, have kids. Okay, is there any purpose, rhyme, rhythm to your life? Are you serving for anything? Are you striving for anything? Are you having any excellence? Nothing. I was born into a patriarchal family. I was married at the age of 20. What is my progress? I will marry my daughter at the age of 24. Okay, so you have progressed. What will you do? Probably, if you are really educated, you will try to marry your daughter at the age of whatever she prefers to. But it again depends on your husband or the in-law families, right? So like this, the generations and generations and generations will take time to heal or understand that this is patriarchy. And the problem is, a single woman cannot survive in a man's world. The system is skewed against her. If I leave a woman alone in the world, okay, will she be as free as man? No, that is what Swami Vivekananda says. Real freedom or real development is when the women have that kind of freedom to survive on her own. Yes or no? So as long as the dependency is there by the system, she cannot survive. That is why everybody thinks patriarchy is justified. Okay. But I think the next generation, 20 years down the line, the kids who are growing up now will not care of all these things. They will say, Papa, I married this fellow. Okay, then there is nothing the parents can do. Yes. As I keep saying, as the old people will die off, so will patriarchy will also. Okay. And even present days men or present days youth are also patriarchal, but it is not that deeply connected. It can be rooted out, kind of. But again, I'm not making hypothetical predictions, so I don't want to entertain that idea. Question. Sir, is reservation a good idea? Rather empower women from grassroots, so this is a kind of model. Okay. Odisha model is where Baiju Patnaik government has announced that 50% reservation will be given to women in MP seats. Okay, and grassroots level workers, party workers, panchayati level, and all these people, they will be promoted into MLAs. So if you perform well as a sarpanch, probably you will get MLA ticket. If you work well as an MLA, you will get MP ticket, so on and so forth. Right? And Pati Panchayati principle is diluting slowly. It is still very prevalent, right? Proxy governance, where Pati Panchayat, that means husband will be actual ruler, where his wife is just a show. Okay. Slowly, it will also go away. Yes. Pioneers from Kerala and Tamil Nadu are showing that a 21-year-old can be made into a mayor. Yes, 21-year-old woman in Kerala is a mayor. Now I think even Tamil Nadu, Madras is having a 28-year-old woman as a mayor. So this grassroots level transformation is happening. More women will enter politics. More young women will actively participate in politics. So the best way for women empowerment in India is to create a all-women political party. Radical
They will
solution.
not succeed.
Why? Did we try?
I don't think so.
You should try first. There is no harm in trying, and it's cheap to start a political party, right? Crowdfunding. So prelims question, what are the steps taken by government of India, or what are the steps to be taken by government of India, or what can be done to reduce the slide of rupee slide, not oil price? How can we control oil price? If everybody is buying electric vehicles, automatically will control fuel prices. But till then, rupee slide, what are the measures or tools available, or what can be done to reduce the slide of rupee? It's already 100% current account convertibility, right? Then do we have 100% convertibility in current account? Capital?
Capital, it's
No, sir.
100%.
Capital, it's not 100%, but in current account, 100% convertibility is there. That means dollar is not controlled by Indian government. The rupee conversion. So what are the steps?
Oh,
Currency swap. How currency swap?
I don't remember.
Okay, currency swap technically will
Swap.
reduce the dependency of dollars. Okay.
What if like the RBI has to keep more dollars with
Sterilization.
Mm-hmm.
Sterilization can be done to offset rupees slide, but it will only be a limited use. We have to increase our exports. We have to reduce our imports. We have to have more foreign direct investment, more foreign portfolio investments, right? Remittances, higher remittances to India. All these things will reduce, stop the slide of the rupee. Okay, so sterilization is an important topic. Yes, increase in imports. See, dollar has to come to India. So whatever you do to bring more dollars into India, like FDI, FPA, remittances, exports, everything is good for controlling the dollar slide or rupee slide. Whatever is leaving India is a bad thing. Like for example, Fed tapering, stock market collapse. All these things are bad for India. Okay. So if you remember this is where Supreme Court intervened and told states you should give compensation to everyone who died of COVID. Now Supreme Court is again crying there are fake records. What do you expect in India? Such a poor nation with socio-economic backwardness, you say give money to people, and do you think everybody will claim legitimately? Yes, that is the distance between the ear and the ground. China says US is trying to build a Indo-Pacific NATO. Why did China say that? What's in it for China? Why that particular term?
Taiwan.
What is the logic?
So because it is being already Biden has recognized Taiwan as sovereign state, sir. He is negotiating with Taiwan's that woman, PM or president, I don't remember. So,
But she's pro-China.
yes, but yeah.
What is the logic? Not what is happening.
So
See,
if it says it is building Indo-Pacific NATO, it gives it like how Russia is invading Ukraine.
exactly.
It can
very nice. So the theme is, if I plan that idea today in 2022, that Quad is a Asian NATO. Quad is Asian NATO. I will repeat it till 20. Okay. People have started believing that Quad is Asian NATO. What do NATOs do?
security
NATOs
alliance.
are a security alliance. So if all these people come together, my security will be under threat. So what will I do then? I will happily occupy some part of South China Sea and some part of Indo-Pacific region. Why? Whatever exactly Russia is saying now, China can say it in 2030. So China is creating a ghost out of nothing. But a lie repeated 1,000 times will become true. Okay. So right now, China does not have any buffer states in Indo-Pacific region. So it will create a buffer state by saying NATO is a expansionist organization. So Quad is an expansionist organization. See, Quad is a trade grouping, not a military grouping. Quad is a trade grouping, not a military grouping. Nobody is saying it is a military grouping. We are doing it for trade and humanitarian assistance. Vaccine Maitri. So all the soft things are being done by Quad. So nobody can claim it as an Asian NATO. But the intention is not to criticize India's grouping, but to occupy something in the future. So China is playing a long game. Okay. So the more the people repeat this NATO drama, people will start believing that everybody is encircling China. Then China will have freedom to do whatever Russia is doing. See, Russia is a $1.6 trillion economy, which is shifting the global markets like anything. Now, if a $16 trillion economy like China goes into the war, just imagine what will happen to the world's economy. Yes or no? If a $1.6 trillion economy can bring world to its knees, what will a $16 trillion economy can do? Are we ready for such kind of provocation? Okay, right. So the best case scenario is coup happening in Russia, somebody overthrowing Putin inside Russia and becoming the president, and and stopping the war. That is the best case scenario the world can hope for. Both Russians will be happy and everybody will be happy. Even our economy will be happy. If that is not happening, Russia has passed a recent law, anti-national law. So I think somebody have called from Delhi, right? Yes. Anti-national laws. How to use anti-national laws? So what is the punishment? If you shout no war in Russia right now, you'll be thrown into jail for 15 years only. Only 15 years. Say no to war, 15 years jail. Yes, Mahatma Gandhi was alive, he would have been the first one to be arrested. Okay. So Russia is having problems internally and externally. Many Russians are not in support of this war. So that is why we should have a clear-cut distinction between Russia and Putin. Putin is not Russia. India is not Indra. Indra is not India. Yes or no? Same story, different names. ICC, ICJ, all of you know, International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court. Next one more headache that we might feel or face is global economy slowdown. Houthis. Just like the time of the yes, so there was a joke, right? Yesterday I have seen it in the Twitter. Instead of saying Prime Minister Modi has sent me, we should go to Russia and say it's Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Stalin has sent us. Okay, Stalin, right? So Russians will be more accepting to that particular name, and they might help us. So it was a joke going in Tamil Nadu circles. Okay. Now coming back, Houthis, all of you know, Houthis are a rebel group in Yemen. Yemen, all of you know, map pointing. So the Houthis are attacking Red Sea. Okay, it's a choke point. Suez Canal, Strait of Hormuz, all these choke points are in and around this particular area. So if Houthis can dominate that particular area, global trade will be severely affected. All of us remember the Suez Canal debacle.
Yes.
When Suez Canal was blocked for 1 week, it disrupted the entire global supply chains. In the same way, if Houthis also get more control in Red Sea, it might lead to new escalation of war. Okay. Right. And Nirmala Sitharaman in her budget speech has mentioned that when barrel rate is between $75 to $77, India will have a stable growth. There is a prediction by JP Morgan that barrel price might go to just $185. Okay, so petrol prices will go to 150 or 160. We will have Zoom classes then. I won't be driving. Okay. Only Zoom classes. So You understand the problem, right? Barrel price is $140. There was a time when Prime Minister Modi came into the picture in 2014. It was 50 rupees per dollar barrel. Now it is 180. If that actually becomes true, just imagine the impact of inflation in Indian economy. Thus rupee, right? Subramania Swamy in 2014 tweeted $1 is equal to 1 rupee. Okay, he wanted that to happen. In 2023, $1 is equal to 100 rupees might happen if the war continues, which is not at all a good scenario for India. Not only India, it will also affect global recession. When global GDP slows down, Indian GDP will slow down. Yes, and I have shared an infographic in Parivartan as well, where you can see the increase in oil prices, edible oils, everything is going to increase. Fertilizers is going to increase. Okay, when all these things increase, it will definitely collapse our economy, or it will definitely slow down. Our dream of touching 9% GDP will come to 5 or 6, which is not good for India in the long run. Why? We need to become $5 trillion economy as soon as possible to reduce the dependencies. But all these things will affect us. So everyone supporting the Russian war, even for the right reasons, are not understanding the implications on India. Okay, this is not at all a good sense for India. And your stock market is being eroded. Stock market collapse is happening. Foreign portfolio investors are leaving the country. People are losing their money. None of these scenarios are good for India. Okay. So gold has touched all-time high, which will also increase our current account deficit. See, Indians will never stop consuming gold. Ukraine, World War III, World War IV, whatever happens, we will buy gold. Yes or no? Gold should always be a product of interest. So if Indians are buying gold on a continuous basis, what will happen? We have to import gold. We import a lot of gold actually. So our current account deficit will also increase. So these are the things. Now, one good outcome of this is there will be a huge amount of investment in electric vehicles. Because of this debacle, every country will pump all its money into electric vehicles. Every country will try to produce the best cars possible, which might accelerate EV development along with the electronic waste. Okay, but EV is better than nothing. And we are also going to face coal price shocks. Power cuts might increase because coal will become so costly that India will buy less coal, less electricity production, and less power supply. So this is a problem. Goodbye Paris Agreement. Yes or no? Why COP26? Net zero emissions. After the agreement, what did we do? We stopped using renewable energy. We started burning more coal. Not only India, European countries are also now going back to coal. Why? Their energy supply from Russia have stopped. Okay. I have linked it to climate change also. Yes. Anything else? So there is an article by Dr. Raja Mohan in Indian Express in relation to nuclear proliferation treaty. We have covered that point. The simple point is, as long as the world is dependent on US-centric security architecture, nobody went for self-reliance. Now that they have realized we cannot rely on US-centric security architecture, everybody wants to develop their own security. So Japan might go nuclear, or if not nuclear directly, they might borrow weapons from USA. USA, you can come and set up some nuclear weapons in Japan. South Korea will do the same thing. When South Korea does the same thing, China will give some more missiles to North Korea. So both of them are now nuclear countries. When Germany gets the nuclear weapons, it will provoke some other countries. Iran will develop nuclear weapons, so will Saudi. India will get few more nuclear missiles. Pakistan will get some missiles. So world will be going for nuclear proliferation rather than non-proliferation. So that is Dr. Raja Mohan's argument that somehow the nuclear architecture of the world is going to change in one way or the other. Right? So the solution to all these things is
2050.
coup in Russia, military coup in Russia. Yes or no? I think that is the best case scenario that nobody is seeing coming, but that should happen. I will use this YouTube recording as a prophecy. Yes or no? See, everybody is thinking what will happen, what will happen. Out of the blue, suddenly there is a coup in Russia. Putin has been overthrown. The war ended. Yes. No? But that happens only in Hollywood movies, not in real life. We are stuck with Putin. No? Russia is not Putin. That is our takeaway. Right. And today morning I was seeing something else. So Russia is promoting in its hybrid war. Russia is having this high-tech war, right? I mean, it is giving a lot of false information, fake news, misinformation, disinformation. So Russia in its media is claiming that Ukraine is having a lot of chemical weapons. And America is supporting, or America is giving a lot of chemical weapons to Ukraine. So that is an excuse for Russia to use chemical weapons against Ukraine. So if tomorrow Russia uses chemical weapons, it will justify by saying it was first used by Ukraine. That is why I'm responding with chemical weapons. So that is one more danger that we are going to see, usage of chemical weapons. That is inhuman. Yes or no? Using chemical weapons is not only temporary, it is a long-term damage. People exposed to those chemicals will develop cancers, they will suffer lifelong, so on and so forth. And pioneer is USA. Agent Orange. It is a chemical weapon used in Vietnam by USA. So if USA says tomorrow chemical weapons should not be used, that is example for hypocrisy. Okay. Again, two wrongs does not make a right. Nobody should use chemical weapons. Clear? Right. So that's it. I hope you learned some perspectives, mains answers or whatever. So that should help you gain some clarity. The rest of the things are very easy. Okay. Right. See you all tomorrow then.